I want to talk about the typical argument that someone would give for the consumption of animal products. And it goes along something like these lines. So you're out in the woods, and you don't have any food available. You're lost. What are you going to eat? Well, if it's winter time, it's going to be really hard to find berries. It's going to be hard to find vegetation. I'm not sure if nuts would be available or not, but if you could find nut trees, you're pretty much limited to just nuts. So clearly you're going to need something else to sustain you throughout this harsh winter. And you're going to need, to have other things to keep you warm. So you're going to have to hunt an animal. You're going to have to hunt an animal, you're going to have to kill that animal, and you're going to have to eat that animal if you expect to live throughout winter in the woods. And so that's alright, and someone should do that, because if they don't, then they'll die, And I believe that human beings are more important than animals. Because human beings, from what I believe, have a soul. Animals do not. So it's okay to take another life. That God's created animals to basically be our companions. And we should treat them nice. We should take care of them. We should help them when they get ill or hurt. And when we do need to eat them, it's okay to kill that and to bless and thank God for that animal, for giving its life so that it can give you life. And to me, that's okay. And, the Native Americans have done this. And there's something different about it when you eat meat that way. But what I have a problem with is when people just mindlessly eat meat all the time. They're just eating meat constantly, day in and day out, and that's all they eat is basically meat, And I don't think that's right, because there's so many things involved with that. First of all, you're supporting that industry with your money, especially if those animals are coming from factory farms. I want to make that a clear point. It's important to know where the animal came from, how it was treated, what that animal was eating. And even when you do have all of these things, when you're getting your animals sourced from a very, pristine environment, and they ate grass, and they were treated humanely, it's still important to realize, that you really don't need to be cramming your body with just meat, Clearly, that's extreme when you're just eating one food. So, that's where what I have a problem with, is people just mindlessly eating meat. The next thing that I hear often is people should eat instinctively. That is, they should eat what they are craving, what tastes really good for them. And there's some truth to that, but it's kind of a half-truth. Because if you look around in our modern day, you'll see a lot of people instinctively eating the way that the meat eaters tell you that you should. And that is, if it tastes really good for you, then that's an instinct, and that should tell you that you should be eating that. Now, if that's true, then these people that are consuming, candy and soda, white sugar, and and on and on and on, they're just going by their instincts because that tastes good to them. But I just want to make this good point, and that is, just because something tastes good to somebody does not make it healthy. And in fact, from listening to a video by Daniel Vitalis, he went on to say how a lot of the foods that are good for us are actually the bitter foods, because the bitter qualities in that food means that it's our medicine. See, medicine tastes bitter, And we eat a lot of sweet foods. Not that sweet foods are bad for us, it all depends on what type of sweet food that is. If it's a processed sweet food, then of course it's going to be bad for you. But if it's a sweet food that comes out of the earth, it's growing out of the earth, in no way, shape, or form is that going to be harmful to you. It's kind of like, why would God give us oranges and apples and bananas if he knew that it was going to hurt us? Would a loving God do that to his creation? Would a loving God give his children poison? And a lot of times the only things that are wrong with the things that we grow today is what man does to it. If we spray it with chemicals, but as far as like growing things be sweeter, there's nothing unbiblical. There's nothing that God says that you can't do that. We are in control of creation and the plants. We have the control of the plants and the animals. That was something that God gave to Adam and Eve. So, we have dominion over the earth, basically, is what I'm saying. And so my point is that the meat eaters will say, eating a steak tastes really good. And it probably does, I'm not going to deny. I grew up eating meat, and I'm not saying I would never eat meat again. And to some people, a steak might taste better than blueberries. But just because that steak tastes better than blueberries doesn't make that steak better for you than blueberries. You see where the fallacy is when we just try to make an argument for the consumption of animal products based upon what tastes good and what doesn't taste good? Clearly, yes, our food should taste good, and we should enjoy eating food that tastes good. But when we're going to look at what food is healthy for us, we got to take that into consideration too. So we don't want to just base our food choices based upon what tastes good. We got to base it also upon these other variables. So, you got to ask yourself, does this food taste good? Does this food give me nutrition? Is this food going to help promote longevity? Is this food going to give me energy? These are important questions you have to ask yourself. And also, is this food, and when I buy this food, am I putting my money into something good, or am I supporting something bad? And how's that going to affect the rest of the world and everybody else? So there's a lot of important questions you got to ask yourself too. So, that's my second point is, don't base your food choices just upon what tastes good and what doesn't taste good. There's a lot of other questions you got to ask yourself. And thirdly, I want to make mention that, as a Christian, I believe that the original diet of mankind was vegan. God created Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, and it was essentially a fruit-based diet. Adam and Eve basically picked fruit, from the tree and ate it, and that's the way God had set it up. Now, that was the original diet that God gave to human beings when he created them. Now, after the flood, when he wiped out all the vegetation and everything, he did allow Noah and his family to consume meat, and he gave important instructions on which animal foods were clean and which animal foods were unclean. Now, some Christians believe that you're no longer under the law, so you don't have to follow the Levitical laws of that, so people, eat pigs and whatever they want. But I see there's a lot of dangers in doing that, and, there's a lot of science supporting what I'm saying. So, I just think that whatever the original diet of mankind was, that should still bear a lot of weight with us today. And, whatever does come out of the earth, it's going to be good for you. Because, look around you, look at the animals. They're consuming their natural foods that grow out of the earth out there. And those animals are really healthy. But you can make your animals really sick when you start giving them, white flour and all this other stuff. And the biggest thing that Weston Price observed is that when people started eating processed foods, that's when their health started to decline. It wasn't because these people ate meat and that's what made them healthy. No, it was the elimination of processed foods.